The Parker family name meant everything in the Chicago business world. Our company, Parker Technologies, had been a powerhouse for 3 generations, with my grandfather's photo still hanging in the lobby of our downtown headquarters. That same lobby where, 5 years ago, my Uncle Marcus had publicly humiliated me in front of the entire board. "You're not cut out for business, Olivia," he had declared, his voice echoing off the marble walls. "This isn't some charity where we can afford to coddle William's daughter just because he died." I stood there, clutching my MBA diploma from Wharton, still fresh in its frame. At 26, I had spent my entire life preparing to take my father's place in the company. But Uncle Marcus had other plans. "The board has decided," he continued, enjoying his moment of power, "that your position here would be inappropriate. We need experienced leadership, not sentimental attachments." What he really meant was that he needed my father's shares, the 30% stake in Parker Technologies that I had inherited when Dad's plane went down 2 years ago. I was too young, too female, too much of a threat to his control. My cousin James, Marcus's son, stood behind him smirking. 3 years older than me, he had failed out of 2 colleges before finally buying his way into a diploma. But he was male, and in Uncle Marcus's world that made him more qualified. "Don't worry, cousin," James called out as security escorted me to the door. "I'll take good care of Dad's company. Maybe we can find you something in HR? That's more suitable for your capabilities." I didn't respond. I didn't cry. I simply walked out, leaving behind the only world I had ever known. But I took something with me that day, something more valuable than my father's shares or my family name. I took knowledge. You see, while Uncle Marcus was busy plotting to edge me out, I had spent 2 years studying every aspect of Parker Technologies. Every contract, every client relationship, every market vulnerability. I knew things about the company that even Marcus, in his arrogance, had overlooked. That night, I sat in my empty apartment, staring at my father's old desk lamp. "Trust your instincts, Liv," he used to say. "In business, the quiet ones are usually the most dangerous." My phone buzzed, another mocking text from James. "Hey cuz, cleared out your office. Found your little collection of business plans. Cute." Face with tears of joy. I smiled, thinking about the cute business plans he had found. The decoys. The real plans, the ones that would change everything, were safely stored elsewhere. 5 years later, I stood in my own office 40 stories above Michigan Avenue. The sign on my door read, "Eclipse Innovations," but few people knew the true scope of what I had built. A network of tech companies, each one carefully positioned in Parker Technologies' blind spots. My assistant Sarah knocked on my door. "Miss Parker? The reports you wanted." I took the folder, scanning the familiar numbers. Parker Technologies was struggling, though they were trying desperately to hide it. Their stock had dropped 40% in the last year. Major clients were jumping ship. And their much-hyped Asian expansion, James's pet project, was hemorrhaging money. "Also," Sarah added, "your cousin James is apparently telling people at the club that Eclipse is just another startup that won't last 6 months." I laughed softly. James had been saying that for 5 years, even as Eclipse systematically acquired companies that Parker Technologies had dismissed as irrelevant. Each acquisition was like a chess piece moving quietly into position. My phone lit up with a text from my old friend Michael, now a senior VP at Parker. "Board meeting today." Marcus looked scared. Never seen him like this. Of course he was scared. Parker Technologies needed a miracle, and miracles were in short supply these days. Unless you counted the mysterious tech conglomerate that had been buying up their competitors one by one. I opened my laptop, checking the latest numbers. Eclipse now controlled 60% of the market share in 3 key sectors that Parker had once dominated. But our company name was carefully hidden behind holding companies and shell corporations. As far as Uncle Marcus knew, Eclipse was just another insignificant startup. Sarah appeared again. "Your uncle's secretary called. They want to schedule a meeting about potential collaboration opportunities." Did she sound desperate? I asked, already knowing the answer. Very. Apparently, Mr. Parker specifically requested their top executives be present. I checked my calendar, pretending to consider it. "Schedule it for next Thursday. And Sarah? Make sure the conference room has a good view of their headquarters." That evening, as I worked late in my office, another text came from James. "Hey cousin, heard you started some tech company. Need any advice from real business people?" Waking face. I set my phone down, walking to the window. From here I could see the Parker Technologies building, its logo glowing against the night sky. The same logo I had grown up admiring, the one that had represented everything I wanted to be. Uncle Marcus had taught me an invaluable lesson that day in the lobby. He had shown me that in business sentiment was weakness, that family loyalty meant nothing compared to power. Fine. I had learned my lesson well. My desk phone buzzed. "Miss Parker? The contracts are ready for review." "The contracts?" I smiled, picking up the thick folder my legal team had prepared. Inside was the most aggressive hostile takeover bid Chicago had seen in decades. Every vulnerability I had discovered, every weakness I had tracked, every mistake Uncle Marcus and James had made, it was all there, documented and leveraged. Parker Technologies didn't just need a miracle. They needed Eclipse Innovations. They needed me. They just didn't know it yet. I spent the night reviewing the final details. Every page brought back memories. The Christmas parties where James had mockingly called me the charity case. The board meetings where Uncle Marcus had dismissed my ideas without even reading them. The day they had security remove my father's personal items from his office. My phone buzzed again, a news alert. Parker Technologies stock had dropped another 5% in after-hours trading. Their biggest client was rumored to be considering a switch to Eclipse Innovations. I closed the contract folder and looked at my father's old desk lamp, still sitting in the corner of my office. "Trust your instincts, Liv," I could almost hear him say. My instincts were telling me that revenge, like the best business deals, was all about timing. And the timing was finally perfect. 7 days until the meeting. 7 days until Uncle Marcus and James would learn that the company they had mocked, the cousin they had dismissed, now held their fate in her hands. I picked up my phone and typed a response to James's condescending text. "Actually, cousin, I think I've figured out business pretty well on my own. See you next Thursday." Then I turned back to the contracts, each page a reminder of the lesson they had taught me 5 years ago. In business, there's no room for sentiment. And I was about to prove just how well I had learned that lesson. Thursday arrived with the kind of crisp Chicago morning that made the city's skyscrapers gleam like beacons. I stood in my office at Eclipse, watching Parker Technologies executives file into their building across the street. From up here they looked tiny, just like their company's chances of survival without me. "Miss Parker." Sarah appeared at my door. "Your uncle's assistant called again. They want to move the meeting up by an hour." "Of course they do," I smiled, straightening my Chanel suit. "Desperation doesn't like to wait. Tell them we'll keep the original time." I spent the morning reviewing the final details. Eclipse had systematically acquired every major competitor Parker Technologies had dismissed over the years. Each acquisition was a piece of a puzzle that Uncle Marcus, in his arrogance, had never seen coming. At 11:30 my phone buzzed with a text from Michael. "Marcus is pacing. James keeps checking stock prices. You should see their faces." I picked up my father's old desk lamp, now sitting proudly on my desk. "Watch this, Dad," I whispered, running my fingers along its brass base. "Watch how well you taught me." At exactly 1:55 p.m. I stepped into the elevator with my team, top lawyers, financial advisors, and my CFO, all handpicked over the years for this moment. Each carried a folder containing Parker Technologies' death warrant, or their salvation, depending on how the next hour went. "Remember," I told them as we descended, "let them talk first. Let them think they're in control." The Parker Technologies lobby hadn't changed much in 5 years. My grandfather's portrait still hung there, watching over the empire he had built. As I walked past security, the same guards who had once escorted me out, I saw recognition dawn in their eyes. "Miss Parker." The receptionist stood up, flustered. They're waiting for you in the main conference room." "Thank you, Linda," I replied, remembering her name from my days here. "Still making the best coffee in Chicago?" She blushed, surprised I remembered. Small details matter in business. Another lesson my father had taught me. The conference room door opened to reveal exactly the scene I had anticipated. Uncle Marcus at the head of the table, trying to project confidence. James slouched in his chair, playing with his phone. Various board members and executives lined the sides, their faces tense with worry. "Olivia." Uncle Marcus stood, his forced smile not quite reaching his eyes. "Thank you for coming. We're excited to discuss potential synergies between our companies." I took my seat directly opposite him, noting how his expensive suit couldn't quite hide his weight gain from stress. Of course, Uncle Marcus. Though I believe synergies might be understating things a bit. James finally looked up from his phone, his smirk faltering as he saw the size of my team. What's with all the lawyers, cousin? This is just a friendly chat. I opened my briefcase slowly, deliberately. Is it, James? Let's review exactly how friendly things are. My CFO distributed the first set of documents. I watched as color drained from Uncle Marcus's face as he read. This is impossible, he stammered. Actually, I replied calmly, it's quite possible. Eclipse Innovations now controls 60% of your market share across 3 key sectors. We've acquired every major competitor you overlooked. And as of this morning, we own 40% of your outstanding debt. James jumped up, his chair scraping back. You can't do this. We're family. Family. I let out a cold laugh. Wasn't it you who said family has no place in business? The day you had security escort me out. Uncle Marcus's hands shook as he flipped through the papers. These acquisitions, how did we not see this? Because you were too busy congratulating yourselves on forcing me out, I answered. Too busy letting James run your Asian division into the ground. Too busy thinking that the Parker name alone would protect you. The board members exchanged nervous glances. They knew exactly how bad things were, the failed expansion, the fleeing clients, the plummeting stock price. What do you want? Uncle Marcus finally asked, his voice hoarse. I pulled out another document, the one I had been perfecting for 5 years. Total control. Eclipse will acquire Parker Technologies. We'll inject the capital you desperately need, restructure the management, and restore the company to what it should be. And if we refuse? James challenged, though his voice cracked. I smiled, remembering all his mocking texts over the years. Then tomorrow morning, Eclipse announces its acquisition of your 3 remaining major clients. By noon your stock will be worthless. By next week, Parker Technologies won't exist. The room erupted in chaos. Board members argued, executives made frantic phone calls. James paced like a caged animal. Through it all, Uncle Marcus just stared at me, finally seeing what he had missed 5 years ago, that I wasn't just William Parker's daughter. I was his heir in every way that mattered. The board needs to discuss this, he managed finally. Of course, I stood up, smoothing my skirt. You have 1 hour. After that, I have a press release to send out, either announcing Eclipse's acquisition of Parker Technologies, or your company's imminent collapse. Your choice. As my team and I stepped out, I heard James's angry voice. This is your fault, Dad. You're the one who pushed her out. We waited in my father's old office, now a conference room, stripped of his personal touches. I walked to the window where his desk had once stood, remembering all the lessons he had taught me there. Exactly 58 minutes later, Sarah appeared. They're ready. The scene in the conference room had changed. Board members sat straight-backed, their decisions made. James had loosened his tie, his arrogance replaced by fear. And Uncle Marcus looked every bit the defeated man he was. We accept your terms, he said quietly. I nodded to my lawyers who distributed the final contracts. Sign on page 3, initial on pages 7 and 12. As the documents made their rounds, I pulled out one final paper. A change in company leadership effective immediately. Oh, and James? Clear out your office. Your position has been eliminated. His face reddened. You can't dash. Actually, I can. And Uncle Marcus? You'll be announcing your retirement at tomorrow's press conference. It's time for a new generation of Parker leadership. You planned this, he whispered. All of it. The quiet acquisitions, the hidden company name. I learned from the best, I replied. You taught me that business isn't about family or sentiment. It's about power. And now. I gathered the signed contracts, 5 years of planning finally complete. Now you've taught me one final lesson, never underestimate the quiet ones. That evening as the sun set over Chicago, I sat in my father's old office, my office now. The Parker Technologies logo still glowed outside, but by next week it would be changed to Eclipse. A new era for a new generation. My phone buzzed one last time, another text from James. You'll regret this. Family should help family. I laughed, remembering him saying those exact words 5 years ago, but with very different intent. I typed back a simple response. You're right, cousin. Family should help family. Consider this me helping you learn the lesson you taught me. In business, there's no room for sentiment. Then I turned to my father's old desk lamp, now sitting proudly on my desk where it belonged. We did it, Dad, I whispered. We showed them exactly what your little girl could do. The next morning, as I watched Uncle Marcus announce his retirement to the press, his voice shaking as he introduced me as the new CEO, I thought about that day in the lobby 5 years ago. They had thought they were ending my career. Instead, they had only shown me exactly how to end theirs. Sometimes revenge doesn't need to be loud or dramatic. Sometimes it just needs to be patient, waiting quietly in the shadows until the perfect moment to step into the light. And sometimes the best revenge isn't serving cold, it's serving it with a signed contract and a reminder that in business, just like in family, what goes around comes around. As I took the podium to address the press, I caught Uncle Marcus's eye. He nodded slightly, finally understanding what he had created that day. He threw me out, not a defeated heir, but a businesswoman who had learned her lessons too well. Parker Technologies is entering a new era, I announced to the cameras. An era where merit matters more than name, where innovation matters more than tradition, and where the future matters more than the past. In the back of the room, I saw James being escorted out, carrying a box of his belongings. Just like I had been 5 years ago. The difference was I had carried out a plan. He was just carrying out his ego. Sometimes the best lessons in business come from those who try to destroy you. Uncle Marcus and James had taught me well, too well for their own good. And now, as I stood at the helm of the company my grandfather had built, I silently thanked them for showing me exactly how ruthless business could be. Because in the end they were right about one thing, I wasn't cut out for their kind of business. I was cut out for something much, much bigger.